And you don't need,
your kids grow up and be your parent.
and you can parent your kids instead of someone else parenting them, like daycare or whatever.
No. I feel that we actually will find a solution for our big problem with our kids that are screaming for attention. We will give them attention. And not only that, my neighbors' kids will start to know me and everybody else, because we all connect in a higher level with each other, because we have time to invest in personal relationships.
I like the graphics when you're explaining about the kid there. This ball starts to show up in between the two adult balls.
Yeah, but it is very powerful.
And it goes off to one side, mommy, mommy, and then it, daddy, daddy, oh no, mommy, mommy, daddy, mommy.
No, I'll translate it in a different way. I'll teach you something. And this is the field that a kid seeks. It seeks information. It seeks understanding. And it searches the one that is giving. And then it takes, and it grows up till it can balance and stand next to it. If you look at this situation here, basically, if you think away the top one and you have the single one, and you're feeding it completely, and you have to let this whole structure feed the center. Eventually, the center will become bigger and as big as the other ones, and it will decentralize differently and will reposition. And this is something that happens in growth. You accumulate enough knowledge and you come in a certain position.
Yeah.
And if you look at it in an esoteric way, you go through all layers of understanding. And when you understand the totality, you're standing next to God, as far as they say.
Yeah.
But you have to govern a whole, galaxy first? In awareness? I'm in charge of a whole galaxy right now. Just leave me alone, okay? I think, how many levels are there of understanding? And I think it translates all to the center of your own understanding yourself. And then understanding how you dictate your own energy. You are plasma, and you can actually interact with the energies of others. You feel energy from people, you feel emotions, you feel that you get warned sometimes or whatever. It's all fields. So feel interaction from people that have a certain intention, or you feel something happening because field lines are converging to a certain point. It's interesting if you look at fields and interaction with people. It's how telepathy works.
Yeah, talking about telepathy, I've done a lot of research into remote viewing, but, using the military trained techniques, and it's amazing stuff. If you have a person that's been trained many years, 10, 15 years doing this type of thing, and you see what these guys can do. I mean, a great place to go is good old Courtney Brown on his Farsight website, the projects they've been doing.
Yeah.
Lately now, they've been doing a project where they will remote view in May.
Yeah, and they remote the next month.
For the next month. And then in June, you see they got it. And then in June, they'll look for July. And July, they've got it. And now it's August. And it's repeatable. It's accurate. And
it's scary too for others.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all fields if you think of it. It's you're using another part of yourself, your soul and your emotion, to go somewhere in time and space and gather information and bring it back. So I guess that's a chapter that will be opened in time to come, from plasma perspective. But these guys are...
I have my personal experiences with this, and I can maybe translate that a little bit.
Yeah.
Once I was involved in an accident.
Yeah.
And I won't explain everything. I can go into detail how it went completely, but it translates into this. Just before I went into that location, I got a vision.
Yes.
And that vision translated into what was going to happen. I looked at someone, I looked specifically at someone, and that person gave me all the information that was available for her in that position.
Yes.
And that scared the living shit out of me because I was right in line with a terrible accident she was going to have. And I felt her pain. I felt her damage. I felt that something was going to happen majorly, but I couldn't place it. This is the fields coming together in a certain point. And this is reality coming to reality. And it's a warning of a few minutes. And in this case, it was about, let's say a minute max. And I parked my car and I put the thing there and I just witnessed the whole thing happen, did some unlogical things, went out of the line, and then the whole thing happened in front of my eyes. And I was just, okay, thank God I'm listening to myself. I'm listening to the images that are being projected at that moment, and I feel there is something fundamentally wrong. And this is what I've learned, not only from that moment, but from earlier life experiences too, that I learned to listen to my intuition, my inner guidance, and never question it.
Yeah.
I need to listen. I've learned to really redirect everything that I do at the moment that it happens.
Yeah.
And it saves my ass and it guides me. And you have to have fundamental understanding that everyone has this.
If you think of it, when we navigating these craft and so on, that's exactly how it is. That's how it has to be, I think, that's yeah.
No. Yeah. 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 It's you feel so much more when you're touching the fields. It's literally understanding emotions. When people understand each other very well, they're connecting very well on an energy level. You have to understand that if you never look through glasses and see that you're actually connecting on an energy level, then you will never see and understand that level. So, but we have to look at that level because it's the way we communicate. I referred earlier on, and it's part of everybody's trying to understand probably is telepathy. Is why do we have sometimes the feeling that we're sharing thoughts? Well, this is because we have a resonance frequency sort of that is equal. So we love each other, or we feel sexually attracted to each other, or we have joy with each other. And whatever emotion you're sharing that moment together, and you're sharing the same frequencies or whatever. And I feel it as energy. So you're sharing energy, and you're being together in that same moment. You're sharing the moment together. And if you're sharing that moment together, it doesn't matter where you do that. It can be also in the mind.
I'll tell you something interesting about sharing the moment together, which kind of knocked me off my chair when I first saw it, but I think by the third time I saw it, I thought, well, just learn something new.
Yeah.
When
created.
If you look at some of these projects that Courtney Brown has put together, they've done a whole lot now. They're publicly freely available. They've looked at things at the bottom of the ocean, at a time when they were at their peak. As a city, they've looked off Mars, they've looked off the famous Phoenix Lights event and so on. And in 3 of the sessions that they've done, there was something really interesting I noticed. The first one was when they looked back to the pyramids and the building of the pyramids. They did a few sessions, but there was one where they had a target set up specifically about the rocks that were used to build the pyramids, where those came from, and how they were sort of cut, quarried, produced, whatever. And
it's interesting.
It's a long time ago. The part that really got my attention is, and you can see this, it's publicly available. He draws a weird-looking being, and this being is now in our past. I don't know if it's 10,000 years in our past, 50,000 years, however long ago the pyramids were built. And there's an interaction that's happening. So you got the remote view. I think this project was done last year, so let's say 2015. And he's locked on to this particular aspect of when the pyramids were being constructed. And there's an interaction between him in 2015 and this being 50,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a real
presence.
And it knows that this remote viewer, it's obviously an advanced being of some kind.
Yeah.
It knows that this remote viewer is perceiving that location.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, wow, you know. So that was the first time. And the second time I saw it was when they remote viewed this famous Phoenix Lights event to see, you know, what was going on.
Yeah.
What were those lights and so on. And that being as well, I think the Phoenix Lights was, what, in early 2000 somewhere? And I think this project was done 2014.
Can I ask you something specifically about this? Were they explaining about something about their physical reaction?
How it works is there's a strict. Well, this is using.
No. I'm not referring to how to get into remote viewing. I'm specifically referring to the moment where they got a connection in the remote viewing session with the being, and knowing the fact that it was aware of their presence. Yeah. Did they have a physical reaction at that moment?
I guess you could say so. In this particular case, he draws out the scene, and you can see there's this being standing there on a craft, and there's these little things around him, and there's these boxes stacked up or something. And when he's drawing the main figure, this is the guy that's running the show on that craft. There's an interaction, and I think you can see it real time because this is all recorded live, and he's standing in front of a camera as he's doing it. So his physical reaction, you can see it then real time. There's like, wow. And I think, if I remember correctly, he was even given a message. He said, you need to look, I'll get it wrong. It was something to do with science, and it was like, look in this area and you'll find the answers you're looking for. Something along those lines. And he was like, wow. You know, he was a bit startled.
I had an experience like that many years ago. My first and maybe only UFO real strong connection up in the Queen Charlotte Islands, where I really wished to be with these craft that I seemed to be perceiving in the sky at night. And so I felt like I was connecting to these beings, and I had this strong desire, so I basically said it strong inside that, you know, I really wish to be with you, and, you know, I'm ready. Take me away. I'm ready to go. And this voice came back inside me, very strong, deep inside, and also deep, strong voice that I don't know, I've never heard anything like it since. And it just said, 4 words, look inside yourself first. And that was the words that came through. It was just like a big shock to me, and that led me to a journey to look inside, to look at the true nature of things, and to examine more closely, and to go on this internal journey and decide to do things a lot differently in my life from that point on. So sometimes you get what you ask for, and it can be a bit of a surprise.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, so that's a whole sort of strange thing where you have something that's happening in our distant past and us now, and there's this real-time communication, you know. That kind of...
I have to hook on to that one directly. It's like I have a almost perfect layover of what was just said about Rick explaining that he experienced a connection when he really fundamentally asked that he wanted to know something.
Mm.
And having this, I'm not sure, I'm guessing, but the circumstances need to be correct. It needs to be, you need to be in silence, you need to be alone, or you need to be connected to people that are in the same frequency, and then you will be capable of connecting.
That's exactly right, yes, and that's the situation I was in, that's true, and some of us did connect that way, and we were seeing stars in our physical bodies and that kind of thing, yes.
Yeah. You can ask any question, knowing that they are physically there. And this is, I'm just generally going to explain it. This is what I personally experienced too, how I discovered the Badland Guardians and all the details that have been shown there. I don't remember very well how I retrieved the information, but after the thing that I connected, I fundamentally knew. And I just needed 4 seconds to look at the picture. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here. Oh, that's there. Ah, yeah, I already know. Good. And let's say that it was not an instant transfer of knowledge. That is not the case. I have the feeling that they actually took me, put me above it, and showed me and said this whole thing and explained me the whole thing and just put me back down at home. And that's it. And I just got energized and looked it up on Google Earth, and I'm like, wow, there it is. So yeah, and but it works the same way, and it's if you want to ask a question, first of all, what I feel is that you're trying to reach out to someone that is interested to connect to you, first of all. So there's someone there, like you and me, that is smart, but just as far as I see, maybe advanced more in a other level, but equally the same. And I treated my contact in that same way, and I asked for respect to me, that he respected me for having trouble with this receiving this contact, because it shocked the living hell out of me what happened. That's why I asked earlier on into what kind of physical reaction was there when the remote viewer was connecting to another being that was perceiving him or her in that viewing session, because it's an awareness connection.
Yeah, and generally for shamans and that kind of thing, there's a little thing they might use, but generally they wish to remain calm and composed during that situation, and not to remain objective and not respond to one's internal sensations that, you might go, oh my God, inside, but still not manifest negatively in that situation. That would be the end of it, because manifesting negatively is what keys off the entity and makes it not work out properly and so on.
And that's what I feel too, yeah.
Impartial, objective observation is a...
well, no, then again, it's also the a control mechanism of our own body. What I felt greatly was that I was going offline. There, I felt like, don't step one step closer, because I have the feeling that if you do or push it a little bit more, I'm just going to be not remembering this all. I didn't remember all, so they pushed it a little bit further. But the interaction is so intense because they're probably or so aware of their used technology that it's just pushing the boundaries that we normally have in interaction with people. They're forcing their mind into you, and they make very clear that they're there. Not forceful. They respect you, and you should be respecting it the other way too.
Well, it gets into some pretty strange grounds here, as someone put in the chat something about where is it here now? About being.
I tell you, I never talk about this stuff, but okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if we should get into it in too much detail because
maybe we should detour it now.
It is not something that everyone has the same opinion of, and the problem is that as humans and as beings, we're at different gradations of, or different levels of understanding. And because the way it works is you can only get a grasp of the next higher level of understanding that you're at now. You can't see 2 levels above because that's not the way the laws work. So you have to work to attain a vision of the next higher level before you can go on to the level beyond that, say. And everybody's at different levels according to our experiences and culture and religions and how many lifetimes we've gone through and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So
I can translate it to this. If people leave fear alone and never feel fear anymore, they will try to understand this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that will be the next step.
Fear is a big...
Right, so here's the comment in the chat. There was from Mari, says...